the thoughts that are clouding your vision, the questions that are clouding your vision, memories that you really don't want to let go of that are clouding your visions, the worry that, oh my God, they're moving on. What does that mean about me? It's clouding your vision. Sometimes silence is like the way that you clear a cloudy sky ahead of you and you could see blue, you could see the distance, you could see the bigger picture. So maybe your healing and your grief are currently inviting you to remember that you are the most important person in your life, that your healing journey, your unresolved traumas, your unresolved fears, your unresolved emotions, those are your number one priority. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Words with me, Najwa Zabian. I've always been a firm believer in the power of words to heal what they didn't break and to break what they had no right in breaking. Today's episode's topic is based on a message that I received from someone who is struggling with a breakup and struggling with the waves of sadness and anger and anxiety that come every time that he slows down. If he's not busy or if he's not doing something that's big or achieving something, then all these reminders of the past and the things that come up when you're trying to grieve the loss of someone, everything starts coming up and it just becomes a struggle. So today's episode is on the reality of grieving while still having to show up, while still having to function. I won't read the whole message to you, but I will read to you the summary that I put together. This person described going through the hardest breakup of his life while preparing for a life-defining exam. He can function when busy, but the moment there's stillness, waves of anxiety and grief take over. He moves between acceptance, sadness, anger, longing, and calm, sometimes all in the same day. He's watching his partner or former partner move on quickly, and he's struggling not to interpret that as evidence that he's behind. One of the hardest parts is accepting the finality of never speaking again, the loss of a shared language, inside jokes, and a future that will never happen. He asks, how do you grieve, heal, and rebuild yourself when life doesn't slow down for your heartbreak? What a beautiful question. How do you grieve, heal, and rebuild yourself when life doesn't slow down for your heartbreak? When you lose someone that once meant so much to you, they're no longer there, you're grieving their loss, you're so confused as to what just happened, even though maybe it's been a while that the breakup happened, or maybe you feel like you shouldn't be feeling this much pain over them, or you shouldn't be thinking about them as much or as long or as many times that you actually are thinking about them. I need you to remember this. Healing doesn't happen by winning the battle in your mind, by winning over your thoughts. Healing happens when you listen to them, but you don't let them lead. Sometimes your mind tells you, there's no way for me to get over that person. They moved on way too fast. That means I never meant anything to them. Or that means I'm not able to let go, but they were able to let go. That means something's wrong with me. Or why is it that the moment I stop doing things that distract me from this pain and from this reality, I'm met with immense sadness and anger and questions and confusion and just wanting things to be closed in some way. I want closure. Why is it that that's the case? Like, you judge yourself, like, as long as I'm not doing something, these things come to my mind, or I'm fine during the day when I'm getting stuff done, but when I come to go to sleep, I can't stop thinking. Grief visits you when you're not doing things, when you're not distracting yourself, when you're not working, when you're not achieving something, because it's there in the background waiting for you to provide a safe space for it to be expressed. grief doesn't go away just because we don't give it an opportunity to be felt. It continues to stand in the shadows of our mind and our hearts and our souls, and it says, I'm here, feel me. I'm really hurt that that person walked away the way that they did. I'm really hurt that they turned out to be someone I never imagined they would be. I'm really hurt that they moved on so fast from me. I'm really hurt that all the hopes and dreams that I had for our future together are just, they turned into dust. And where do I go with all of that? Grief visits you so that it can move through you, so that you can heal from the loss that you went through. And healing from a loss doesn't mean putting it behind you and saying, I'm never going to think about that person again. They're a terrible person. They're out of my life. I'm never going to ever allow them to take up my thoughts or anything. That's not what it really means. Healing is learning to incorporate that loss that we went through with all of the lessons it taught us about ourselves and about the world into the core of who we are. You know, that loss changed you. That breakup changed you. That relationship changed you. And part of grief and healing is accepting the change in a way that says, I'm not any less because you happened to me. I'm not any less because you hurt me the way that you did. I'm not any less because I spent so many years with you and you turned out to be the biggest disappointment of my life. It's acceptance in a way that says, I went through this experience, I lost you, you're no longer in my life, and that's part of my reality. It doesn't make me a broken person, even though it broke me. But it makes me a person who learned the tools and the resources to put myself back together. I can't say that I'm the same person I was before I met you because you're no longer in my life. There's no such thing as going back to the person you were before the thing that broke you. There's no such thing. I wrote about this in Welcome Home. You will never go back to the person you were before the thing that broke you. So part of acceptance isn't to say, I'm okay with what happened to me. It's to acknowledge what happened to you and say, it was that bad. It did hurt that much. I really didn't want it to end the way that it did. I'm really hurting over it ending the way that it did. I'm really hurting over the way that that person decided to move on with their life so quickly. It's to acknowledge all of that and acknowledge that every time you think of those things, you're going to feel uncomfortable, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel angry, you're going to feel clear on some days. But that's what acceptance looks like. And so if our goal is to get to a point where we accept the loss, where we accept the fact that we have to let go of that person, where we accept the fact that that person started letting us go way before we ever sensed that the relationship was going to end. You need to stop judging yourself for going through waves of grief. You need to stop judging yourself for all the moments when you sink into shame and judgment and say, what's wrong with me for not being able to let this person go, for not being able to get myself out of what feels like a hurricane of thoughts and questions and unanswered things that you will never, ever get the answers to. Stop judging yourself for going through all of that. That's your body's way of grieving. And when you judge yourself for going through that, you will try to shut that out of your life. You will try to distract yourself more. You will try to work harder. You will try to find somebody new to get into a relationship with so that you don't have to deal with the things that you have to heal. When you stop judging yourself for going through the normal human process of grief, which could be different for every person, and we could still call it normal because your process of grief is personal to you. When you stop judging yourself for being human, for grieving in the way that works for you, you will be able to have conversations with your grief and with all of the emotions that come up as a result of it. You will be able to speak to anger when it comes, instead of judging yourself for feeling angry. I used to always have a hard time with my angry side, and I would think that it means that I'm not the person I thought I was. I'm calm, I'm peaceful, I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm giving. I'm not somebody who gets angry. And I learned the hard way that anger, healthy anger, is a human right. When someone hurts you in a way that brings up anger from within, that anger serves a purpose. That anger, its purpose is to say, that's not okay. That's threatening our safety. Your anger isn't a sign that you're a terrible person or you're not a good person. Your anger is just trying to protect you. It's a signal that says, we're not okay with that. That doesn't feel good. So when you stop judging yourself for having the anger come up, when you stop judging yourself for having the depression and the, I really need closure coming up, you sit and have conversations with them. Sit down with your need for closure and ask it, what is the closure you're looking for? What's keeping you feeling confused? The answer you might get might be, I want to ask that person why they walked away. I want to ask that person why they stopped loving me. I want to ask that person why and when and how did everything change? And this is where I'm going to give you a hard truth. Your closure does not come from the person who gave you something to need closure from. Your closure comes from within yourself. Your closure could be as simple as, someone who loves me wouldn't hurt me the way that person hurt me. That's it. And I don't want people in my life who would hurt me that way. I don't need to know why you hurt me for me to be able to move on with my life. You hurt me. The damage is done. You backstabbed me. Why do I need to turn around and ask you why you're standing behind me and why you had the ability and the willingness to put a knife through my back? Why? Do I need to know why? I need to heal. I need to give myself the help that I need. My closure is that you had the ability, like you got so close to me to be able to be the loving force in my life, the understanding force in my life, someone I build a life with, someone I entrust with everything that makes me who I am and everything that means something to me. But you got close enough and decided to hurt me. That's my closure. Knowing why you did it doesn't make a difference. Stop seeking closure from that person and stop checking that person's social media. Stop checking on their life. Stop checking on the people who know them. You need to remove people from your life who have already proven that they don't deserve to be in your life long enough for them to become insignificant. You've heard this before. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So the longer you're holding on to the why and I can't move on and why is it that I'm so stuck on this person, you're still somehow attached to them. Even when your anger comes up and it tries to paint them as the bad guy for you so that you could hate them even more, you're still super attached to them. Whether you love them, or hate them, or despise them, they still have a hold on you because they're taking your energy. So when you stop allowing triggers that remind you of them, such as checking their social media, knowing that they're in a new relationship, knowing who they're talking to and what they're saying, you get yourself out of the mud of the messiness of that breakup. And you no longer have the spiral that you normally fall down. It starts with one thing. You think of them, you look through their social media, you see something new, you look that person up, you look another friend that's in common up, you talk to them, you're still in the messy place where everything ended. You're not giving yourself the ability to extract yourself out of that, clean yourself up, and say, I'm a different person now. I've internalized everything that ending taught me, and I'm working through all the things that have stuck with me since that. I'm working through unlearning some of the things that relationship taught me. And I'm working through learning things about myself that I thought I didn't need to work on. It is absolutely essential that every single time your mind tells you the only closure we can get is from them, is for you to redirect and say, my healing doesn't happen by outsourcing love or by outsourcing reasons why someone decided to hurt me or by outsourcing validation or acknowledgement. My healing comes from within. I'm going to give myself that closure. Remember that. Closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. Closure comes from the person who was hurt. That's you. And every time you have these intrusive thoughts, don't look at them as inconveniences. And I know they feel like inconveniences because you're like, I'm really focused on this thing I'm working on. Why am I being reminded that person hurt me? Learn to listen to what that intrusive thought is telling you and speak back to it. As long as you avoid it, it's the one that has more power. As long as you don't contemplate or entertain what it's trying to tell you, you're not able to say to it, you know what, this doesn't help me right now. I don't need to be thinking about this right now, maybe at a later time. You kind of become like a manager for your thoughts and for your feelings, and you even tell them, we'll do this later. Sometimes that's all it takes. I'll think about this question later. That gives that question the safety that you're actually going to address it. When you're so focused on the way that someone else decides to heal, you're taking yourself away from your own healing. Healing is not a competition. If two people break up and one person decides to take the time to be sad and to feel depressed and to just process the whole thing in whatever way that works for them, and the other person decides, I don't want to feel any of this, I'm going to go out, I'm going to date new people, guess what? The pain doesn't go away just because you decide to distract yourself from it. Maybe you're distracting yourself with work and with focusing on big achievements in your life, and the other person is distracting themselves with other people. Both things are the same. They're distractions from doing the real work that needs to be done. Pain that you distract yourself from is still pain that you need to heal from. It doesn't go away. Just because you've become a master at distracting yourself doesn't mean that pain is going to go away or that it's resolved. When we say time heals all wounds, no, it doesn't. It's what you do with that time that heals your wounds. It's with how you use your time, energy, love, your inner medicine, your compassion, to sit with your pain and make it feel like you are your own therapist. Like you are your number one advocate. You're going to listen to it and you're going to give it what it needs. If you had a friend who was going through a breakup, I bet you anything, you would sit with them and listen to the same story 1,000 times over, and you wouldn't judge them for it. But you don't do that with yourself. You think, as long as I resolved it one time, why is it coming up again? It's because it's not resolved. It's not heard. It doesn't feel like it's been felt well enough by you. And I get it. It's hard to sit with those really ugly, heavy feelings that say, I really thought I could trust them in that moment, and the thing they did and the way they turned their backs on me makes me feel so dumb and so stupid. It's hard to sit with those feelings and with those thoughts because it's uncomfortable, because you kind of have to admit to yourself that you were fooled. And no one is comfortable sitting with that. But once you sit with that long enough, you learn to realize that it's true that you were fooled, but it's not because you deserved to be fooled. And it's not because something about you inherently makes you more susceptible to being fooled. It's because someone chose to fool you. You're walking down the street and you all of a sudden feel this gush of water come over you, and you look up and you see that somebody opened their window and they spilled a bucket of water and it hit you. Would you say, oh, it's my fault for walking on the sidewalk that I always walk on, or it's my fault for taking the path I always take? You wouldn't say that. So why do you say that about somebody hurting you, betraying you, lying to you, getting close enough to you to use everything that they know about you against you? So the more and more time you sit with the uncomfortable feelings, the more you're able to not internalize what they're telling you about yourself, like, I deserve to be fooled, I deserve to be lied to, I deserve to be walked away from, to, it was their choice to hurt me. It was their choice to fool me. It was their choice to turn their backs on me. It was their choice to make me feel loved enough and then completely change as a person and make me beg for what they easily gave me without me ever having to ask for it. You don't heal without having the conversations. You can't heal pain and anger and suffering and confusion by ignoring them or by looking at them as they're too much and they're too inconvenient. All you're doing is tucking them away in the back of your heart and the back of your mind, saying, I don't have time for you right now. So look at it this way. All the things that other people in your life have made you feel make you a burden, you are making those things feel like they are a burden. And in return, those are parts of you. If you make certain parts of you feel like they're a burden, guess what? You feel like you're a burden on other people because you carry those parts. So if I can leave you with anything in this episode, it's grief is not linear. And you've heard this before. Grief comes in waves. You're going to get these waves of overwhelming emotions that you feel like, I can't deal with all of this right now. And other times you're going to go through a wave of feeling so numb and like nothing's getting to you. You're not feeling anything good or anything bad. And then you're going to go through a wave of really hoping that maybe that person will see the light and come back to you. You're going to go through all these waves. And the way to ride those waves is to let the thoughts and emotions feel heard. But you don't have to make them true. You listen to them and you decide whether you're going to believe what they're telling you. Ultimately, if your goal is to really get over someone and move on with your life, then you know what to tell those thoughts. You know that you can say, I hear you, and I know that person really hurt me, but we're not going to go back to them for the answer. I know you think that the answer is only from them, but that's not true. Like, listen to how powerful that is for you to tell your need for closure. I know that you think the answer is only from them, but we actually already have the answer. They were able to hurt us in that way. That's it. We don't need another answer. You see how instead of allowing that nagging need for closure to constantly be telling you, we need closure from them, we need closure from them, we need closure from them, the moment you sit with it and you talk to it, you've eased its persistence and its pain. If someone meant something to you for as long as they did, you're going to struggle with them no longer being in your life. Even if you know on a logical level, they're not right for me, they're not good for me. If they meant something to you, you're going to hurt over losing them. And that hurt will look differently for every person. It's going to look differently for every person on every day and in every moment. And healing is accepting that. And not being so hard on yourself with, my life needs to go a certain way. My day needs to go a certain way. My healing needs to look a certain way. It looks however it looks. And it feels however it feels. And you're going to be patient with yourself because you owe it to yourself to give yourself the compassion that you would so easily give to anyone outside of you. Stop comparing your journey to healing with someone else's journey to healing. You have no idea what they're going through, and it's none of your business. And I know it's hard to not compare ourselves, especially with breakups, because you're like, how did you move on so quickly? Dating other people doesn't mean you moved on. Sharing pictures of you smiling and laughing and looking like you're doing better doesn't mean you moved on. God knows the struggles that people walk around with. And God knows the shows that they put on to convince the world around them and themselves, in a sad way, that they're okay. Stop looking at the masks that people wear to show you that they're all okay and they've let go and they've moved on. You can't trust those masks. Those are masks of survival, just like your mask of survival is to overfunction and work too much. Just because your ex moved on quickly into another relationship or started dating other people, it doesn't mean that they aren't struggling with your loss. It doesn't mean that they never loved you. It doesn't mean that you never meant anything to them. It doesn't mean that what you shared was so easy to let go of. It could just mean that that's their way of coping. It could just mean that that's what feels safe and familiar for them to do, is to just shut their pain out for as long as they can by distracting themselves with other people and things. But the most important thing I want you to hear is that it really doesn't mean that they never loved you. And if it's true that they never loved you, and that's where all of these behaviors are coming from, that wasn't a loss for you. And I know it feels like a loss, but that was liberation for you. It's time for Words That Found Me, and these words are by Helen Keller. What we have once enjoyed deeply, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us. I think this is a beautiful way to change the narrative that we have in our minds that says just because someone's no longer in our life doesn't mean that we lost this amazing, great thing, this amazing, great life that we had with them. We need to reflect back on our ability to move forward with our life, carrying and internalizing all the beautiful things that we learned about ourselves and them and life, and just embrace that. And also embrace our ability to share something so beautiful with someone else. You know, I know it's hard to do that because you're like, how do I find beauty in something that I lost? I really wanted that person to stay in my life. Maybe the beauty isn't in the actual loss of that person being in your life. Maybe the beauty is in realizing how much you are capable of surviving through that you never thought you could survive through. Maybe it's in learning day by day that someone who is meant to be in your life or who deserves to be in your life would never put you in a position to lose them. And sometimes the best thing that we can do when we have all of that turmoil of feeling like we're struggling with the loss, we're struggling with the way they moved on, we're struggling with all these unanswered questions, is to take a deep breath and embrace some silence. And stop being pushed and pulled by all these forces that want us to feel this and think this and dwell on this and focus on this. Because if you do all these things, then you don't really have to deal with your actual pain. Sometimes when you're quiet, when you pull your energy back, when you no longer check on them and what they're doing with their life, when you no longer compare yourself to them and your healing path to their healing path, when you no longer judge yourself for all these things that are coming up for you and for taking as long as you're taking to move forward, and you just sit with yourself in a non-reactive way to everything that's happening around you that you just know is a natural byproduct of the loss, things fall and you're able to see clearly ahead of you. The thoughts that are clouding your vision, the questions that are clouding your vision, the memories that you really don't want to let go of that are clouding your visions, the worry that, oh my God, they're moving on. What does that mean about me? It's clouding your vision. Sometimes silence is like the way that you clear a cloudy sky ahead of you and you could see blue, you could see the distance, you could see the bigger picture. So maybe your healing and your grief are currently inviting you to remember that you are the most important person in your life, that your healing journey, your unresolved traumas, your unresolved fears, your unresolved emotions, those are your number one priority, and that's what you need to focus on right now. I could go about this topic for a much longer time, but I think this is a good place to stop. It's time for words from me to you. This is from Welcome Home, and it's on page 182. It hurts because they meant something to you. It hurts because you believed them. It hurts because you saw a future with them, because you were vulnerable with them, because you spent so much of your time and energy on them. Of course that's going to hurt, so let it hurt. Sit with the pain. This should never be your normal. You should never be okay with being treated badly. You should never be okay with being betrayed. You should never be okay with having someone you trusted so much turn around and treat you as if you never meant anything to them. You should never be okay with that. You don't have to be okay with it to accept it. And you have to accept it because healing comes with accepting it. The empathy, sensitivity, and beauty that allows you to feel the pain of being treated that way makes you who you are. It's why you're able to give love. It's why you're able to give, period. You choose to not cause pain. And that's what makes you who you are. So stop looking for the reason someone hurt you. Stop looking for why they changed. Stop looking for the speck of dust in the ocean and look at the ocean as a whole. If you're able to just let that closure, that person, that experience dissolve all together in the big ocean of your life and all the people you're going to meet and all the love you're going to experience, give and receive, if you're able to do that, then you'll see how small that person and that experience are compared to the glory of what you can experience. I don't think I can add anything to that. That section in Welcome Home is called Stop Looking for a Speck of Dust in the Ocean, and it's just chef's kiss. So go read it if you need more. If you're struggling with the loss of someone you love, I want to congratulate you. I want to congratulate you on having the courage to love someone so deeply and having the courage to allow them to walk away because you realize that they're not the right person for you. I salute you. I hope this episode helped you find healing beyond words, and until next time, have a lovely day.